We're good? Okay. Though it's quite out of character, Jeff and I had a taste of the whining and dining that's lavish upon big donors. How these big givers get treated, and what it's like to be part of the elite. Over 30 years ago, I was asked by someone at Pilgrim Church, when Jeff was the pastor there, if I would like to join her book group. We were new to St. Pete, and I thought, oh, that'll be a good way to make some new friends, so I said yes. One of the members of the group was a lawyer, in practice with her husband, a small law practice, handling wills and estates and guardianships and things like that, and we've become really good friends. So these lawyers represented a woman who was an extremely successful real estate agent here in St. Petersburg. The real estate agent was a very generous patron of the arts in the Tampa Bay region. She died with no heirs and asking that her lawyer, our friend, use her estate to continue funding the arts and giving him discretion about what to fund. So he continues to give away her money, and as part of that, he's given tickets to all kinds of arts events, and Jeff and I are often invited to go with them to these fancy events. When we go, say, to the opera in Tampa, we drive up to the Strauss Center, and the car is whisked away by a valet. We walk toward the center, and usually there is some kind of live music playing, a tent set up, refreshments or dinner is being served with an open bar, of course. There is usually a table set aside for us and specially marked. And as we sip and munch, the head of the Strauss Center drops by our table. The head of the development division for the opera comes to our table. The director of the opera stops by. The director of education. And this bigwig, after that bigwig, comes to talk to us. And they thank our friends for their generous support of the arts with the Realtors estate. And they chat with us and they talk about the performance and the visiting musicians. It's nice. Then we go inside upstairs to a lounge and a terrace for more drinks, for coffee, for homemade cookies. Then it's time for the performance. And we take our seats, yes, toward the front of the auditorium, always. At intermission, we go back to the lounge and the terrace, more drinks, more coffee. Then back for the second half of the opera. But we're not done yet. After the performance, we go to this large function room upstairs, and there is a huge spread of food. And all the performers are there, the conductor is there, the other patrons are there. I've had my picture taken with Cheryl Milnes, and he was a first-string baritone with the Metropolitan Opera in New York. He lives in the Tampa Bay area, and he's at all these performances. And while we're eating again, people are dropping by our table, thanking our friends for their generosity of this foundation they oversee, and we meet all the important people. When it's time to leave, honestly, as soon as we are out of the building and walking down the sidewalk, the car is sitting there waiting with all the doors open for us to get in, and then we go back to our mundane little life. This has given me a glimpse of how the wealthy get fawned over and catered to all the time. I mean, we don't even give any money, and we get all this VIP treatment. And you can see that the donors are used to being treated like this all the time, everywhere. So when I listen to Jesus criticizing the temple authorities, I can well imagine them fawning over all these big donors to the temple, giving them the full VIP treatment. And why? Because their big donations fuel the sacrifices and the fancy robes and the big candlesticks and the many servants that make a lavish life for the temple authorities. They need those donors to keep them fat and sassy, to keep them on the top of the social pyramid so they get greeted with respect in the marketplace and the best seats at the services and places of honor at banquets, so they cultivate their donors. And evidently, this extends to extorting fortunes from widows. In the New Testament context, a woman had to be associated with a man to have her material needs met. She had to be part of the household of a man. First, her father, and then her husband. And if the husband died, then she would be associated with the household of a brother or a son, or maybe even an uncle. A woman simply could not live on her own. She had no way to sustain herself. So a widow was vulnerable, especially if she had no close male relative. And we're told that the temple authorities would prey upon widows to get their fortunes, leaving them no way to live, leaving them destitute, dependent on the generosity of others, left to glean from the edges of the fields. That's how desperate, greedy, and self-obsessed these religious authorities were, to be rich and maintain their social standing. Jesus condemns these religious leaders because they are using their power and authority not to help people in need, but to help themselves at the expense of the people in need. They are using their position not to further the purposes of God, but to feather their own nest. They are preying on people to get the best sacrifices for their meals and their fine robes and their fancy living, all for themselves. This is in complete defiance of the teachings of the Hebrew Bible that instruct the faith community to care for widows and orphans and those who are vulnerable, to care for them, not prey upon them. Then we get the little vignette about the widow in the temple and her 2 coins worth less than a penny. Maybe she's one of the widows the religious authorities have extorted. Maybe she is poor because of these religious authorities. We don't know. But the religious leaders, they see her donation, her 2 cents, it's nothing. Useless, of no help to their cause. So she is seen as useless, powerless, of no worth or value. But the story of this gesture, putting these 2 cents in the treasury, the gesture and the story accomplish a lot. It validates Jesus' condemnation of the religious leaders who are abusing the needy and abusing their power and position. This vignette exposes the failings not only of the leaders, but of the whole faith community. The faith community, according to Jewish scripture, should be helping the poor widow. They should be rushing up to her to see what she needs and see how they can help. They should be giving her money. They should be giving her food and clothes, not parading around in their fancy robes, covering their well-fed frames. They should be helping her. Instead, she makes a donation to the temple. The Hebrew Bible is rife with references to the obligation to help orphans and widows. And we're told Jesus watches as she, the widow, puts her only 2 coins, her 2 cents, into the treasury. Is this an in-your-face gesture on her part? An act of defiant irony? I don't know. So, when it's all said and done, who is remembered as a model of faithfulness and generosity? Not those big givers, not the major donors, not the temple authorities. We are all still talking about the widow and her 2 cents. Thousands of years later, that's who we're talking about. This story creates a rich harvest of teachings about women, about religious leaders. Look out for them. One of them. It is a rich harvest of teaching about those made poor and their power, about money, about its power and use. It's rich in teaching about dignity and generosity. This is one of the best known stories in the Gospels. And the leaders of the temple expected nothing from that widow's gift. What can 2 cents do? They can change the power dynamic of a society. So, who has the power? The widow is the one who's remembered. Her story is the one that's still being told. Her story continues to inspire. She has done more with her 2 cents than all those dress circle donors. And this is the way it is with the gospel. Everything's turned upside down. This little story calls out the whole power structure of religion and society that neglects those in need and caters to those on top who are rich at the expense of those who are made poor. The seemingly powerless become powerful. Generosity is redefined as the giving of your all, not just the giving of your excess. The purposes of God are achieved with 2 cents worth less than a penny. And that brings us to our annual harvest. It would be easy to say, what can a tiny, barely sustainable congregation hanging on the ragged Gulf Coast of Florida do with their 2 cents? Well, you're about to hear the answer. And the answer is change the world. Like the widow, that's what we are doing with our 2 cents. So I'd like to invite Lexi Green and Danielle Hintz forward to give you the compilation of what was on all those forms that you were generous enough to take the time to fill out.
Good morning. I always love this time of year because I think when you sit and think about all the ways that our church is engaged and involved, it always overwhelms me that, wow, what an amazing contribution outside of the church and in the church people are making. So what we're going to read to you is we collected 29 people from Trinity Lakewood Church families, and about half the congregation's work that is being shown and represented here. So first of all, the total number of volunteer hours given, and remember this is underestimated, but 3,702 hours. The total amount of money donated, $143,890. And the organizations and institutions and causes supported include the AARP, AA, African People's Education and Defense Fund, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez Campaign, All Children's Hospital. All of the organizations supported by Lakewood Trinity Outreach Committee, Alley Cat Allies, Alzheimer's Association, American Baptist Historical Society, American Civil Liberties Union.
American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, Amnesty International, Animal Care Society of Louisville, Kentucky, Art Center.
Assisting Voters, Association for the Study of African American Life and History, St. Petersburg, Association of Protestant Chaplains, Audubon Society, Aylesworth Foundation for the Advancement of Marine Science.
Balanced Health and Apollo Nursing Homes through Bingo, Carolyn, and Cards, Bail Project, Beijing Action Group, Best Friends Animal Society, Biden Parents Victory Fund.
Bingo, Black Power 96 Radio, Blessing Hands sponsoring students in China, Foley, Book and Bottle.
Boston University, Boys Ranch, Camp Out, Campus Journalism, Westminster, Jared Hard Ministry.
Caring for Cambodia, Cat Trap Fever, Center for Action and Contemplation, Charles Circle Atlanta, Chewonki Foundation.
Child Care, Christian Appalachian Program, Christian Science Church, Church Finances, Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association.
Cleanups in Cortez and beach cleanups for hurricanes Helene and Milton. Committee work, Community Action Stops Abuse or CASA, Community Food Bank of Tucson, and Common Cause.
Consumer Reports Foundation, Contemplative Outreach of Tampa Bay, Evidence House, Dali Museum, and Democratic Candidates.
Democratic Party, Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Debbie, or I'm going to say her name wrong.
Ropasso Pal.
Thank you. Denison University and Disabled Veterans.
Doctors Without Borders, Dunham Food Fund in Tucson, Eckerd College, Eden Theological Seminary, Emily's List.
Environmental Causes, Environmental Defense Fund. Equality Florida, Feeding Tampa Bay, Florida Orchestra.
Food Pantries, Franciscan Center of Tampa, Friends, Family, and Strangers, Friends of the Florida Conference.
Gaza Relief Funds, General Electric Foundation, Good Samaritan Food Pantry, Goodwill, Grinnell College.
Habitat for Humanity, Harris Campaign, Harvard College, Healing Center, Art Association.
Helping Neighbors with Garden, helping people register to vote, request mail ballots. Hero to a Child, History Museum of St. Petersburg, Holocaust Museum.
Home cooked meals for neighbors and shut-ins, Hope UCC, Human Rights Campaign, Humane Society of the United States, Hurricane Relief Program.
Indian Ministry, Innocence Project, Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, International Reserve Committee, a refugee program, and James Museum.
Needy Kitty Rescue, Lakewood High Volleyball and Soccer Teams, Lakewood and Trinity United Church of Christ, Lakewood Trinity Care Team, Lakewood Trinity UCC Communion Offering and Pledge.
Laos Conference of Churches, League of Women Voters, Leaders We Deserve, March for Our Lives, Listening Room Network.
Melrose Elementary, Metro Wellness Trans Health, Viseu Dei, Mom Demand Action Against Gun Violence, Moms Fed Up.
Multicultural Health Institute, Muscular Sclerosis Society, Museum of Fine Arts, St. Petersburg, NAACP, St. Petersburg, National Alliance on Mental Illness or Not.
National Holocaust Museum, National Museum of the American Indian, National Parks Conservation Association, National Research and Development Council, National United Church of Christ.
Nature Conservancy for Yosemite, Neighborhood Events, Neighbors and Families in Need, North Shore Animal League.
Old Friends Thoroughbred Retirement, One City Chorus, 100 Women Who Care, Opera Tampa, Out of the Closet, Out Outreach Committee of the church.
Casa Grill Beach Community United Church of Christ. Hollis's Peachy Rescue St. Pete. Paying 1 year of medical school for young women in Tanzania. Here packs and other items for church donations and pet pack.
Phi Beta Kappa Society, home home to those in need of comfort. Pinellas Community Foundation, Resiliency Fund, Pinellas County Democratic Party, and Pinellas County Retired Teachers Association.
Pinellas County Schools, Pinellas County Teachers Association, Pinellas Hope, Planned Parenthood, Police and Sheriff's Departments.
The Footner Institute supporting Tampa Bay Times, political campaigns and candidates, Project Bread, which gives food assistance to those in Massachusetts.
Razum, a Ukrainian charity, Ready for Life Pinellas, supporting former foster care youth.
Raymond James Pride Inclusion Network, Racial Equity Task Force, Presbytery, Tampa Bay, Red Cross, Refugee and Migrant Women's Initiative, Rincon UCC.
Salvation Army, Sanderland School, Scott A. Smith Foundation, Scottish Cultural Society, and the Sierra Club.
Sekou Sotini, Southern Poverty Law Center, Sacred Conversations on Racism, First UCC, Sarasota, St. Jude Children's Hospital.
St. Luke's United Methodist Church, St. Pete Pride, St. Petersburg Food Plant, St. Petersburg High School Devil's Closet, St. Petersburg International Folk Festival.
St. Petersburg Scottish Heritage, St. Petersburg Time Bank, Sarasota Baywatch, South Acton, Massachusetts Congregational Church, UCC, South Face Institute.
Stewart's Opera House in Nelsonville, Ohio, Suncoast Employee Appreciation Fund, Suncoast Water Cooler, Tampa Bay Gay and Lesbian Film Alliance, Tampa Bay Giving.
Tampa General Hospital, Temple of God, the Carter Center, the Democratic Party, the Temple, Atlanta.
The Yellow Fund, the Nick Fiorentino Campaign, Election and Campaigning, Therapy Dog Organization, Toys for Tots, Trinity UCC.
Tweety Bees, United Church of Christ, Florida Conference, United Nations Food Fund, UCC Back Bay Mission, UCC Disaster Relief.
Waterkeeper Alliance, WEDU and WSLR Radio, Wellesley College, Westminster Employee Gratification Fund, West Klosterman Preserve, Pinellas County.
Women's Suffragette Monument, Wood Carving, Woodson African American Museum, and the YMCA St. Petersburg Summer Campship.
So that's the list that we have.
You should all clap for them.
You know, we didn't collect everything, but for those who contributed, wow, what an amazing list.
I know, that's our 2 cents. So we'll turn to singing a new song to me that we sang at our Florida Conference meeting, Go Make a Difference. You may stand as you wish. It's on the insert in your bulletin.